So we have to think not about how can I outsource this task, but what's the job that needs to be done and what's the most effective way for my firm to do said job, and then decide, what's the next step. And I think too many of us, me included, are, well, I just want someone to solve my problem versus asking the underlying question, what's the problem that needs to be solved and what's the most effective way to do that for the type of business that I'm building.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a good one. Our guest is a consultant who helps purpose-centered entrepreneurs build businesses with real roots for more ease, energy, and earnings in their business. Jessica Lackey, welcome to the show.
Excited to be here.
It's great to have you. And Jessica, I'd love to have you share your career journey leading up to this point.
So I spent the first 15 years of my career climbing the traditional corporate ladder, working for a consulting firm, a big three consulting firm, getting an MBA, working for a Fortune 500 company. And I hit the wall. I burned out super hard, working all the time. My career was my life. And then about 7 years ago, I decided to make a pivot to get my life back. I became a life coach. Then I became a business coach working with purpose-centered entrepreneurs because I didn't want them to go through the same burnout that I did.
Wow. What was that transition like?
It was the biggest self-development journey I've ever been on. We had to change the default programming for how I spent my time, where I derived my own value from, and decouple from my worth and my identity and my value being about my work, and then slowly integrated more of my life back into my life. During the past 7 years, after making the part of making the transition was I had a couple of interim jobs, some of which were actually promotions, because when you get really focused on doing the right work, companies take notice. But I ended up moving from where I was at in Portland, Oregon to Charlotte, North Carolina, meeting my husband, buying a house, adopting a dog, going through the COVID pandemic, and realized that I never wanted to work in a traditional office setting, in a traditional 9-to-5, because I valued flexibility more than that. But it was a 7-year journey of working with a variety of coaches and healing practitioners to kind of reclaim the life that I had given up for the traditional path.
Wow. That sounds like quite a journey. And I always wonder when I hear these journeys, it's like, what was it that told you needed to go on this journey?
Well, I remember the moment I knew I needed to go on the journey. I was in my boss's office, having truly a breakdown. I had just come off of a period of working nights and weekends. I'm feeling like a tax season for your bookkeeping clients. But I was in my boss's office crying for like multiple days on end. And I'm like, this is not normal. Like, I don't feel good in my body. I don't want to go on. And also I looked at at that point, I looked around at all the people I worked with and all the leaders in the organization and said, their lives don't look a lot different than mine. I don't really know if I want to continue to be more successful at the path I'm on, especially when my body is starting to rebel on me. And I was having some health problems. Again, I was, not dealing with the stress I was under emotionally. And at that point I was like, it's very clear I need to slow down and recenter the focal point of my life.
If you look back, how did you get there? Because I would imagine you could you may be able to look back and go, it's like, you've got different roads you could go down in your life, and you picked one, and you might have wanted to pick maybe another, but as you said, you kind of had this self-worth all bundled up in what it meant to climb the corporate ladder and go that route. But do you ever feel like there was a place where it's like, yeah, you went down that road, which you should have maybe gone left or right?
I don't disagree. I mean, I look back at the road I went on, and I look back at that journey with fondness. I'm just glad I listened to the signs and signals when I did. I moved through a path. When you step through some doors, other doors close, which I didn't really realize. When I went to business school, there was a certain job that I graduated into, but I'm thankful that I went on the path I'm on because I got the skills that were required to be successful in this next phase of my journey. But I'm really glad I listened to the signs, and I didn't wait for something more serious to happen. A lot of the entrepreneurs I work with have come to me after they've had some really serious health crises or really serious marital problems, because they've just been nose to the grindstone for so long, thinking that that's kind of how you have to be to build a business, and never listened to the warning signs that something was not right with kind of them living their lives in the way that they'd wanted. So I'm not sad about the path I went on, because it gave me the skills to do the work that I'm doing now, but I'm just really glad I listened before I passed the point of no return.
You got off the crazy train.
Got off the crazy train. Yeah.
And I like the frame, because I think there's a book. I think the book title, people say, it's like, what got you here won't get you there, something along those lines. But the flip here is, in your story, is, what will get you there, you couldn't have done without where you've been either. You had to, you learn lots along the way, and that's always the case. Like, whether we make good choices or bad, we learn from them, and it puts us in a different position. So it's almost, what I'm hearing is like, you're grateful that you pivoted in your life to go on this new journey and go there. And I guess for our listener, it's maybe that, what is that, those telltale signs that you're speaking of, and paying attention to them sooner than later, to not put yourself into a situation that is unrecoverable, I guess, right? Health is precious. Our life is precious, all those good things. So it's paying attention, I guess.
Yeah. You may have heard that analogy. You're juggling balls in the air, and some are rubber and some are glass. And if you're going to let a ball drop, don't let it be the glass one. Your health, your family, those are, the relationships that you have with yourself and with those closest to you are things you can't get back. I mean, you can, but they're harder to recover once the glass ball has shattered. So how do we look at the balls we are juggling in the air and be thoughtful about choices that we're making, so that we are not sacrificing those glass balls?
So true. So true. We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Get ready to fast forward your bookkeeping business into the future with the Successful Bookkeeper Technology Showcase on June 22nd, 2023. This one-day virtual event is the perfect opportunity to connect with industry experts, leading technology providers, and find solutions and efficiencies for your business. But that's not all. Our keynote presenter, Teresa Slack, co-founder of Financially, will share the technology stack that has helped them build a near seven-figure bookkeeping business. You'll learn about the latest and greatest apps, software, and features that can take your business to the next level. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to revolutionize your bookkeeping business. Register today at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/showcase and join us on June 22nd. See you there. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. So this journey now that you have gone on, you're helping. Tell us a little bit more deeper around what you're doing today to help entrepreneurs make those pivots or make sure they don't drop those glass balls.
Yeah. So service providers, especially as they're growing their business, they start to bring on a team. they start to get overwhelmed with client work and managing their team and the marketing and the sales and the business operations. And it starts to be too much. But they are the only person in the room that's really thinking about their business strategically. So they are kind of trapped between thinking about the vision of what's next and the overwhelming desire to sometimes burn it all down. And the solution for most of them is not more courses, more programs, and it may not even be more people on their team, because they're finding that they are the bottleneck and unable to really kind of keep the eye on the tactical, but also keep the eye on the strategic. And so that's where I come in with business owners, like growing bookkeeping agencies or financial services agencies, to help hold the vision and the strategic plan and look at the financial profitability of the company, while also then helping to think about what are the systems, processes, hires, marketing and sales strategies that we need in order to make the vision of the entrepreneur come to life as a strategic partner, helping them in the business do the work.
That's very good. That's very good. So you, instead of just going and, working harder or, doing what a lot of people think that would be the solution, it's stepping back and making sure that they have a clear plan in place and end up with the business that they desire in the end of it.
Yeah. And that business is going to look potentially different it should look different for almost every single person, depending on the appetite they have for marketing, for leading teams. How big do they want their businesses to be? We're kind of sold, again, coming back to my corporate experience, the idea that more is more and constant growth is the answer and the unlock. And for a lot of business owners that I work with, the goal is not to continue growing the business. The goal is to reach a business design that works for their lives and their visions and the gifts that they want to utilize in their business. So how do you have a partner that helps kind of normalize those feelings of sustainability versus consistent and constant growth, and design a business that supports a sustainable vision for the business owner versus necessarily a relentless pursuit of more?
So true. I think many people get caught up in that more is better, and know what you're building, because you might end up with something you totally don't want, which is not great. There was a quote that you have, and you talk about outsourcing. I know that's a conversation that comes up. Like, people are really busy, they want to grow their business, or they have lots of workload going on. Many people will say, hey, outsource, find an outsource solution. But you actually talk about that might not be great advice.
What happens when you tend to outsource stuff? I imagine that you are a business owner and there's a wall between you and somebody else. Maybe you say, I don't like marketing. I don't like sales. I don't even want to do my own bookkeeping for some of those bookkeepers that are growing their business to maybe more that financial services advisory point of view. And so the idea of just outsource it is, I'm going to hire somebody and I'm just going to toss things over the wall. I'm going to say, hey, you handle my social media, you handle my sales, you handle my marketing, and it just kind of gets tossed over the wall. But that's really not setting you or the team members up for success, because likely the prerequisites for you and them to be successful haven't been documented yet. I'll take marketing as an example. We always want to outsource our marketing. And you can bring someone on that can create graphics and publish social media posts for you. But if you haven't decided on your marketing message, your unique point of view, your target client of who you want to both serve, what makes you differentiated, and you don't have a process to communicate that to the people you bring on for marketing, they're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated, and it's going to be a waste of time and money. You're actually going to be spending more time correcting the work if it's just tossed over the wall.
So true. No, really getting clear on some of the fundamental things, and as well, I think it's, in my own experience, in my own life, often the outsourcing can seem like a great idea, but all of those things that you've mentioned don't really come up because we're trying to solve a problem that we deeply want to, and I'm speaking myself, that I deeply want to solve. And so outsourcing seems like a really great idea because it's marketed as a solution to solve the problem that I have. But often, and I've learned this too many times, it's not, because of some of the things you've mentioned. And as well, many outsourcers are good at selling the concept of solving your problem without actually solving it because they're not doing the things that you've just said. So really great concept and something to think about. And your advice would be to do the deeper thinking and really get the foundation and clarity of your business before going and finding someone else to do it.
Exactly. And that's where part of what I do with my my business owners is say, before we're going to outsource something, again, how many, like let's say marketing, how many clients do you need? And depending on the number of clients you need, let's think about what we want to outsource, why, how we're going to work with these partners, what needs to be automated. And it may turn out that the answer isn't kind of the solve that we're sold. It's maybe an entirely different capability, like doing more networking meetings and having a more relationship generated marketing versus hiring a firm to pump out social media content for you. So we have to think not about how can I outsource this task, but what's the job that needs to be done and what's the most effective way for my firm to do said job, and then decide, what's the next step. And I think too many of us, me included, are, well, I just want someone to solve my problem versus asking the underlying question, what's the problem that needs to be solved and what's the most effective way to do that for the type of business that I'm building.
So true. We talked a little bit about the outsourcing now. I'd love to know what are some of the other mistakes that you see coming up from small business owners that impacts their well-being in their business.
Here's an interesting one that I think is it goes both ways. It's putting in really strict systems too early or too late. Sometimes we put in systems before we know what's had a chance to work. We try to scale and do things that are scalable before we know what's scalable. We design systems for a business of double the size before we really know what systems, again, we need to put in place. And then we end up with a tech stack that is unwieldy and a user experience that we don't like. And I think the other big mistake that seems counterintuitive, it's again like this growth perspective. At some point, growing too much means that you're going to need to take on additional team members. And at some point, for bookkeeping firms, taking on too many or more clients means you're going to need to hire account managers, potentially need to hire a senior bookkeeper or someone that can take on client meetings. And that's a decision that should be made thoughtfully, not, oh my God, I have so many clients. What am I going to do to kind of, how do I keep juggling all this? There's a philosophy of stabilizing before you get to that next growth threshold, redesigning systems to prepare you for the next growth phase versus just relentless focus on growth.
It sounds good. I mean, we talk often about systems and they're very time consuming. And if you're not building the right system for the business that you want to have, that's a problem. Definitely. Any other mistakes that you've come up with along the way?
I think there's both underpricing, but also overpricing. Underpricing, that one everyone really probably knows about, is they are working way, way too hard for the amount of money that they're bringing in, and the finances don't work. But I think there's this interesting thing about overpricing, which is when your pricing is out of line with what your customer can afford to pay, the target customer you're working with can afford to pay for your services. And so we see that a lot of the literature on online business says, double your prices. That may or may not be appropriate for you to build your business, because when the prices are too high and we don't have the sales and we don't have the customer experience and we don't have like the systems to support that value proposition, then sales get really hard. or we are not working with the revenue level of clients who can afford to pay those prices. So I think we have to be thoughtful about keeping our pricing in tandem with the clients that we're serving and the value that we're providing, knowing that you should be reevaluating your prices frequently and not leaving clients with legacy pricing for 5 to 10 years, which I see happen a lot with financial professionals. But really reevaluating the pricing every year to say what makes sense for how my systems have evolved, how the experience has evolved, the value we're providing to our clients, and also the target investment that the client's size that we want to work with is able and willing to make.
So true. It's a big one. And often people can just jump to, well, I'm just going to increase my pricing, which is a simple concept, but the implications needs more thought. A lot of what you're talking about is doing that deeper thought and strategy around growing the business, which is key. And so maybe I'd love to hear some of the stories of your clients that how that these decisions and these mistakes that are made, how it impacts their well-being.
Yeah, I like to talk about the collective well-being. So we're talking about you, your team, your clients, and the community that you work with. So, for example, one of my favorite clients, she was a tax and accounting professional that worked with creatives, and she was beloved by her clients, but she was charging too little in order to make her prices accessible to her entire community. So we really restructured her offer suite to say for her more complex clients who have multiple tattoo locations or multiple more complex businesses, what rates should we be charging for that level of complexity? But then also, what's her capacity for taking on those creatives who maybe run their business as an LLC or maybe even run as a DBA? Those clients may not have the complexity to pay for those higher prices. So how do we offer a super efficient product that is appropriate for that level so she can still fulfill the promise of serving that community, but with very targeted offers that are designed for each phase of the business's evolution?
Very cool. Very cool.
It was too much for her and her team. She wasn't providing her clients with the right level of service. She wasn't providing her team. I mean, the amount of tax returns they had to do would put them out of commission for a month afterward to recover. And that's not good for her. That's not good for her clients. And that's certainly not good for the team. So we reconstructed her business model so she didn't have to take on quite as many clients, could release some of those that were not great with getting all their documentation to her on time, and really strengthened her business foundations by sharpening the value proposition and being really honest with her capacity and what she needed to thrive for. Did she need to bring on new team members? Really thinking about what did she need to serve all three of those lenses.
I love that, and you can just see like the set of eyes that you have for this client. It brings so much. When often I know our listener, they're in their business, they're looking at their business, they can only see it through their own eyes, which are often it's unclear as to how they can change things or go in a different direction when all they see is what they've been seeing. It can be very paralyzing, I think, for any business owner if they don't have someone else giving that other perspective. And maybe speak a little bit about that.
It is impossible to simultaneously keep the vision on the horizon as well as take care of all of the nitty-gritty details. So I like to think of myself as a small business co-pilot. So there's two people in the front. One person's keeping an eye out in the navigation, looking at the overall profit, the value proposition, the projects that need to happen. And one person is kind of looking at the dials. What's the projects that need to get done right now? What's kind of coming up from the, what are the KPIs on the dashboard? And then flipping that script. Sometimes it's the co-pilot. For example, myself, I'm in my clients' books every month. I'm in my account, some of my finance professionals' books every month, looking at the KPIs from a different vantage point while they're keeping an eye on kind of the vision of their business. So, and dreaming about what's next. So it's two in a box philosophy of someone's going to be looking at the kind of strategic vision and someone's going to be looking at the near-term operations. That doesn't always have to be, and it probably shouldn't always be, the primary business owner, because we can't see it when we're in the box. Having that external set of eyes that truly knows you and your business is, I have coaches and I have those people that help me kind of think outside of myself in my business as well.
It's invaluable. Let's talk a little bit about goal setting. You have written that traditional goal setting is counterproductive. I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, very similar to, thinking about what we're sold about online business and building a business of, I need to have more clients. I need to raise my prices. I need to hit this revenue marker. And a lot of times we set those goals without those outcome goals, without thinking about the process to get there, the actions to get there, and, kind of what the implications are. So we might end up with 20 more clients, and then we have a business we don't really like very much because we're focused on the number versus focused on the quality of those clients, the revenue level of those clients, the implications to the business with that level of clients. So I always say, let's have our goals be like a lighthouse in the target, like a target out in the future, which is more of a feeling we want to have and a vision for our business, with letting go of the specific numbers and then focusing on the actions that we're going to get to take to get there. If we want to have X number more clients, what are the actions I need to do every day, week, month in order to get those clients? And it may turn out that by taking, having those relationship meetings or communicating with your referral partners, that you might end up with 5 amazing best fit clients that actually fill your business need versus a larger number of smaller clients. But you didn't necessarily know that by setting the outcome metrics. So how do we kind of set goals lightly, but then focus more on the process and the actions that we'll take? And that may lead us in actually a different direction than the specific outcome we set forth to go towards.
I love that. And it's, I think, a refreshing and impactful way of thinking about it. This has been a fantastic conversation. There's so much around the lens that you bring to a business owner. I'd love to share with our listener where they can learn more about you and some of the things that you do to help entrepreneurs.
Yes. Your listeners can find me at jessicalackey.com/welcome. There's a link to my services, a link to other podcasts I've been on, and a newsletter I send out every Sunday talking about how we build radical and rooted businesses.
Very, very, very exciting. Jessica, I want to thank you on behalf of our listeners for your generosity in coming on our show and sharing your journey and your experiences. And it's been a pleasure having you.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to successfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.